Hello, Jessica Langenberg here with Leadership Resources, and today we are doing something a little different in the sense that we're going live. Now, last week we posted a video talking about productivity, and this week we're going to talk a little bit more about one of the biggest productivity sucks there is, which is drama, as well as one of the most powerful things we can do to avoid sucking up all of our time with it. Now, studies have shown that we, employees, can spend up to 2 hours a day engaged in drama. That is a huge number when you really think about it. And you might be thinking, there is no way that applies to me. There is no way I spend 2 hours of a day engaged in drama. Or there's no way that that number can be accurate. But I want you to really think about it. When you think about your average day, how much time do you spend venting? Venting about a person, about a project, about a situation? How much time do you spend listening to another person, a coworker, complaining, doing their own venting? And how much time do you spend worrying? That internal dialogue, I sometimes call it awfulizing about the future. When you think about it that way, that 2 hours doesn't sound so out of line. But that 2 hours a day, that's 10 hours a week, that is staggering when you think about the impact drama can have on our productivity. Absolutely insane to think about. Now, the good news about drama, and believe it or not, there is some good news, is that it's largely self-imposed. We rarely do it on purpose, but when you think about it, most of the drama in our lives, we tend to create it ourselves. I'm going to tell you a story that helps you understand what I mean by that. I recently met with a client. He came into my office, and I swear before his cheeks hit the seat, we were off and running. He was sharing some recent challenges that he was having with his boss. His boss was starting to look at some new data, look at some new metrics, and he had a ton of questions as a result. So as I was talking to my client, listening to my client, it was probably 10 minutes went by and I wasn't even able to get a word in edgewise. But I was hearing that his boss didn't value his contributions to the team. I was hearing that his boss didn't trust him to manage his time and manage the priorities of his division. I was hearing that his boss didn't think that he was doing a very good job. And after 10 minutes of this, when he finally paused to take a breath, I gave my client a blank piece of paper and I asked him to write his story, everything. So to write down exactly what happened, how he felt about what had happened, and to write it as if he was writing it for someone that didn't know him, didn't know his boss, had no idea of the context or background, just to write his story. So I sat and I watched that pen move across the page for about 5 minutes. And finally, at the end of the 5 minutes, I'll never forget it, he sat down the pen, he looked up at me and he said, "You know what? I'm pretty sure all of this is in my head." And I tell you what, it was like the skies opened, the angels sang, because we all do it. We're all guilty of it to a certain extent. We treat our thoughts like facts. And what I mean is there is a huge difference between what we know for sure and what we think we know in any given situation. And most of our pain, most of our drama is created by us putting too much stock in the things that we just think we know. In this situation, the only thing that my client knew for sure was that his boss was asking a lot more and probably a lot harder questions than he had ever done in the past. What he thought he knew were his boss's reasons for doing that. And so he spent a lot of time agonizing about his boss's intentions. He spent a lot of time trying to determine how to answer the questions the quote-unquote right way. And then a lot of time on the back end worrying about his answers not being good enough or the right answers or implicating him in some way. So much lost productivity. When you think about even the time we just spent in the office, probably 20 to 30 minutes when all was said and done. And you know it wasn't the first 20 to 30 minutes he had spent thinking about it, worrying about it, agonizing about it. So much lost productivity. My guess is that most of us can relate to this story in some way, shape, or form. If you think about the last thing that upset you, or the last thing that you invested any time and energy in worrying about, my guess is that it wasn't based on a fact. When you really get to the core of what had you worried, it probably wasn't a fact, right? It was the way you were thinking about a fact or the way you were feeling about a fact that was creating your problem. Essentially, it was that internal storyteller, that internal chatterbox that can cause all sorts of problems for us. Now, whenever we start to do this, and let's be honest, some people are more prone or more inclined to listen to that internal storyteller than others. But whenever we start to go there, we can typically feel it, right? Our heart starts to race a little bit. Sometimes we start to flush, or we feel that brain fog when we stop thinking logically and start thinking more emotionally. For me personally, I know my hand will start to shake a little bit when I get really upset about something. But whenever we start to go there, there's value in pumping the brakes and really intentionally identifying what do we know for sure and what do we just think we know. Really important to discriminate between those two things. Sometimes it's just in our minds thinking about it. Sometimes I'll encourage clients to write it down, literally 2 columns. What do I know for sure in this situation, and what do I just think I know in this situation? And then the key is, and this is really important, we react, we respond, we identify our next steps, or we make our decisions based only on what we know for sure. It allows us to be more objective in our decision making, less emotional in our thought process. It makes us smarter in our response. So a little thing we can do, but a little thing we can do that has so much power. I hope you'll find it helpful, whether for yourself or in coaching someone that you work with. That's all we've got for today. But if you like our content, please take the time to like and follow our page, or encourage you to visit our website and actually sign up for one of the weekly webinars that we're doing on setting good goals and getting things done. Thanks for watching.